Hello everybody, welcome back to the Prairie State Patriots YouTube channel. I'm Brian, this is Evan. If you haven't been here before, thank you for stopping by. If you're returning, thank you for coming to watch us again. This was actually a viewer requested video. Our good friend Dale asked us what medical equipment we carry. He was referencing my ferro rod and flint and steel video being outdoors, but I figured I would just go ahead and cover everything in one video. So to start off, we just have like your basic first aid kit. This is the boo-boo kit, as people often call it. Now this is a pouch from Adventure Medical, but this is not the original kit that came in here. I just actually had this lying around where I had used most of the contents previously. But there's nothing fast and fancy about this. It's basic stuff like some medical tape, some dressings, alcohol pads, burn gel, stuff like that, band-aids. Some minor, aspirin, stuff like that you would encounter on a normal day-to-day basis, like your headaches, maybe you cut your finger open and it's not that bad.
Bug bites.
Bug bites, yeah. If you've never used Afterbite, this stuff is worth its weight in gold. A few years ago, I got stung in the bell of my ear by a red wasp. Immediately felt nauseous. It burned. It was making my head ache. My ear was ringing. I took some of that and rubbed on there, and I think within 2 minutes the pain was gone, completely gone. It's amazing. So definitely pick up a tube of Afterbite. You can find that stuff at Walmart. I think it's $2 or $3. It's cheap. Well, like I said, nothing real fancy about this. I do carry one of these in my outdoor bag. I do carry one in my range bag, and I actually have something like this in my work bag. Just various sizes of bandages, individual packs with like Tylenol and stuff like that in it. Like I said, just your normal everyday, day-to-day stuff. Lewis actually has one attached to his range bag that he carries as well.
Yeah, I was able to get a pretty budget-friendly first aid kit off Amazon, and then I got this backpack attachment so I can stick it right to my range bag. It's got virtually the same things in it, a little bit smaller, more compact, but it's really nice to have something like this for bumps and scrapes, especially if you're going to be in outdoors. And the fact that it just attaches to your backpack or range bag makes it super simple.
And when you guys are wanting to put together a first aid kit, it is exponentially cheaper for you to buy the individual components and just get some sort of bag to put it in. It doesn't have to be a high-speed MOLLE attachment if you're not using it in austere environments. You don't need anything that's super durable. The one that I keep in my work bag is literally in a quart-sized Ziploc freezer bag. I don't need anything beyond that. It contains everything just fine. Now, moving on, I do have some actual trauma kits, and these are basic trauma kits. Neither one of us are medical professionals. I do know how to use the contents inside this kit. I am not authorized to teach how to use the contents inside this kit.
And trauma kits are admittedly one thing that I'm lacking in. I don't really practice. I haven't studied as much. He's definitely more advanced in the knowledge department on that than I am.
Lewis refuses to carry one.
Well, he's got one for me.
Yes, I do. I actually have 3 kits and 2 here, but we'll get to that in a minute.
And the way you shoot, I might need them.
Funny. So this is a Maxpedition Janus pouch. This is not marketed as a dedicated medical pouch. It's just another pouch that they sell. It's actually made to attach with the belts on their backpacks. I bought one of these though, and this worked out perfectly for me because this strap is just long enough. I can attach this to the headrest of my SUV, and you see I have it labeled with a reflective med pouch. This sits facing opposite me on the back of my headrest, so if I needed to grab it or if I needed to tell someone else to grab it, they can clearly see it, and they can just grab a hold of it and pull the whole headrest off with it. Now on the bottom here, this is a tourniquet pouch made by a company called One Tigress. This is incredibly durable, thick nylon. I don't remember exactly how much I paid for this tourniquet pouch, but it wasn't anything insane. I got it off of Amazon. So if you guys need a good way to carry a tourniquet and attach it to some webbing or to a belt for that matter, I would definitely check out One Tigress. These things are amazing. But I've just got a basic pair of shears in the back here, and then I've got a North American Rescue tourniquet in here, which is basically considered the industry standard, it seems like. With tourniquets, there's a bunch of different types out there. They'll all work in some capacity, but you need to get some sort of training when you're using stuff like this. Typically, you want something with a windlass on it. A windlass is this piece right here. The way this works is you put the tourniquet around whatever needs to have the bleeding stopped. You tighten it down as much as you can by hand, and then you use this windlass to twist it and tighten it up. And you'll put it in this little lip right here to hold it in place. This white piece of Velcro just stretches across and has a section for the time. If you have the opportunity, and the reason I have a Sharpie attached to this, document what time you put this on. That would let responding paramedics and EMTs know what time this was on and when it needs to be released.
Why would that be important?
Because you don't want to leave a tourniquet on an appendage too long, because you could cause damage. So it needs to be released every so often. But like I said, I'm not authorized to teach that. So this is for severe arterial bleeding. If you don't know, if I cut my hand, I'm not going to throw a tourniquet on my arm. Now, if I have a deep laceration in my arm or sever my arm and it's spurting brightly colored blood, then yes, I'm going to have a tourniquet put on. I'm probably going to be passed out, and Lewis is going to have to put a tourniquet on. So now you know. You're in charge of saving me.
I'll wing it.
So moving on to the inner contents of this. And like I said, guys, this is pretty basic. I do have one of the SOL 2-person heat sheets in here, just because when people experience any sort of severe trauma, one thing that happens whenever they're unconscious is they lose the ability to thermoregulate their body temperature. So you can either put this under them or over them or surround them in it, whatever is necessary for the environment, to prevent them from losing all of their body heat and making the situation potentially worse. Any regular space blanket will work. I mean, even the dollar store space blankets are better than nothing. So if that's all you can afford, absolutely, by all means, stock up on those things. Those things are invaluable.
And you mentioned losing the body heat. Is that the term going into shock?
Well, no, it's a byproduct of going into shock. Next in here is a pressure dressing. This is a 6-inch Israeli bandage. I do love the Israeli bandages because you can get these for about $8 or $10. They're not very expensive. They do come in 4 or 6-inch that I've seen. That being said, I have used some of the H&H pressure bandages. I do personally prefer those. I just think they're a little bit easier to use quickly. But this would be for any wound that's not an arterial wound that needs to have pressure applied to it to stop the bleeding. It's just a large bandage that unfolds. It has a section on it, and I mean, there's a little pictorial on here. I'm not going to open this up, but it'll show you guys how to use it. You just put that little bandage on where the actual wound is. Then it has a bar. You'll lock the bandage in, pull it the opposite direction, tighten it down, keeps pressure on the wound. Next up, we have got H&H, flat compressed gauze. Now this gauze is impregnated with a clotting agent, and this is for deep penetrating wounds, such as a gunshot or knife wound, or you could come across a car accident and part of the car has gotten knocked loose and is sticking through someone's chest or arm, whatever. Clotting agents are a little bit expensive. I know a popular one is Quick Clot. Their combat gauze, I think it's about $40 for a pack of it. But once again, man, the stuff is invaluable. You get that buried deep into a wound, and it's going to help stop it. This is Z-fold, flat folded, and what that means is it's kind of folded accordion style. The reason it's done that way is so whenever you pull the gauze out and you start packing it into a wound, you have to keep pressure on that wound as you're packing it. And having that folded in that manner instead of having to unroll it just helps you rapidly pack the gauze in there without losing control of it and it flailing everywhere. Next is a decompression needle. These can be kind of hard to find sometimes. I bought a couple of these off of Chinook Medical, which is an awesome website, but they have a $100 minimum order, and these are not $100. I think these are about $11 a piece. But this is for something called a tension pneumothorax, or a collapsed lung. What happens is This typically can happen with something such as a sucking chest wound, maybe a gunshot wound to the chest, but it can also be caused by severe blunt force trauma, like someone getting hit by a car, or maybe taking a big fall and they land and it causes their lung to collapse. So what happens is, this is essentially just a needle with a catheter on it. Pressure builds up in the chest and it'll start forcing that lung to collapse, and then it'll eventually start putting pressure on the heart and the arteries and the veins. You stick this through the rib cage to help relieve that pressure and get all that excess air out of the chest, so it'll take tension off of the lungs and everything else that's squishy in there. And I'm oversimplifying that entire process, but like I said, I'm not certified to teach all this stuff. I do have a basic pair of nitrile gloves, just in case I ever have to do work on Lewis. I don't want to catch anything that he has.
That's fair.
That's fair. Next up, just a 2-pack of chest seals. These are vented chest seals. Once again, sucking chest wounds. You have one for the front, one for the back. These have a backing on them. You just peel it, slap it over the wound. Good to go.
Is that the one where it's adhesive on 3 sides and not on one?
Yes, that's what the vented means. Typically, like I said, if you have a sucking chest wound, once you put the chest seal over it, you may have the need to use the pneumothorax needle to relieve tension in the chest. Last thing I have in here is an NPA, or nasopharyngeal airway. This is not one of the pre-lubricated ones. I actually didn't know until yesterday they made these pre-lubricated, so it does have the lubricant on the back. But this is if somebody is unconscious and they're not able to breathe on their own because they don't have the ability to hold their tongue up and out of the way of their airway. You can actually lube this up and you insert it through the nasal passage to keep their airway open until they can regain consciousness and breathe on their own. Once again, man, this is pretty cheap. I think the most expensive part of this kit is the gauze. Anything that involves clotting agents is typically going to be a little bit more expensive than everything else. But that's just my basic one that I keep on the back of the headrest, and this is not too much different. I just have this outfitted for 2 people. But this is a Maxpedition FR1 pouch. This was actually designed to be used as a trauma kit pouch. I'm not going to bother breaking it open, guys, because like I said, it's really not any different than what I just showed you. But
and you haven't touched on the shears on the side, have you? What would be the purpose of those?
To cut clothing. Yeah, that's what I said. I had shears on this one. Yeah, if when it comes to arterial bleeds, you need to remove clothing so you can try and figure out where the bleed is coming from. The general rule of thumb with tourniquets is you will hear people say go high or die. Well, you don't necessarily have to do that. Say if his femoral artery is bleeding and I can see where it's at, I'm going to go approximately 2 inches above the wound, cinch it down. If there's so much blood or debris or whatever that I can't tell where it's at, I'm just going to go high, cinch it down, and they can deal with it later. In the event that you have to use any of this stuff for real trauma, you should absolutely be on the phone calling 911, calling medical professionals. So if you have a smartphone, dial 911, put it on speakerphone, and set it down while you go to work. If you can't for some reason, if somebody else is nearby, have them call 911. Try to relay as much information as you possibly can. There are civilian medical courses out there, so I would highly recommend that you guys try to find something like that. He definitely needs to find something like that, because I think I just have been speaking Japanese to him for the past 12 minutes. But this stuff's it's really not hard. It's just a matter of knowing how to use it and when to use it. You can buy pre-made trauma kits. I think they're usually about 150 bucks. If you know what you're looking for, you can kind of get that cost down a little bit if you buy it on your own. Like I said, unless you're using this in austere environments and you're wearing it on a plate carrier or something like that, you don't need super heavy duty pouches, but you need something you can depend on to protect your gear, keep it clean, and keep it organized. That way, in the event that you do need to use this for something, you know exactly where everything's at. Because in the matter of using actual trauma supplies, every second literally does count. It does not take long to bleed out and die from an arterial bleed.
And you mentioned training. I think it is worth noting that we are both CPR certified. And if you're not, you should go ahead and try to get yourself CPR certified. It's
Yes.
simple and it's very effective.
It is very simple, and the majority of problems that the everyday person is going to encounter could most likely be solved with CPR in regards to someone not being able to breathe. Anything you want to add?
I think we about covered it.
So, if you guys made it this far, I appreciate you listening to me ramble for the past 15 minutes or so. Like I said, this was a viewer requested video. I know this isn't anything high speed, it's nothing special, nothing fancy. But definitely get some medical training if you have the opportunity. Even if you just know people that work in the medical field that will take the time to sit down and teach you how to use these things. I'm not going to say it's as good as having like dummies to practice on where you can actually put needles in and tighten down tourniquets and stuff like that. But it's a start. It's better than just not knowing how to do anything. And always keep in mind that you can carry this stuff for yourself, but like I said, this was a 2-person kit. I don't go out looking to care for other people, but I'm not legally obligated to care for other people because I'm not a medical professional, but I feel morally obligated. If somebody is hurt and dying and I can help them and hopefully prevent them from dying, I'm going to do everything I can to do that.
And it's not just about strangers, you know, it could be your wife, your dad, your child.
And something that people often overlook is, say you are in a defensive handgun situation or defensive shooting situation. I mean, obviously you just use lethal force on somebody. You still should try to provide them casualty care. The ultimate goal in any situation is to prevent the loss of life. If you felt the need to use lethal force on somebody, it was to prevent the loss of life of somebody else. That being said, if I shoot somebody and I can ascertain that the scene is safe and that there's no other threats present, I'm going to provide them casualty care and try to keep them alive. I don't know if there's a legal obligation there or not. That may be something you want to check with an attorney, but I would feel morally obligated to do that. But I appreciate you guys watching. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Either way, drop us a comment and let us know down below what you liked or did not like. And if you would like to see any future content from us, hit that subscribe button. Good?
Good. Remember, Berettas suck and so do you.
Yeah, apparently. I suck. The internet hates me. But I appreciate you guys watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thank you.